how would you pull stuff? And I'm sure it's a very individualistic thing, tinkering, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to tinkering. That was one of the things, and some of the research I found that made me put carbs into Carb Night. That 1 day a week carb burst actually has it's about a 3 or 4 day effect that helps to solve some of those problems. But for somebody who's chronically dumping cortisol, I mean, their body is totally in survival mode. It is trying to find some way to break down any and all tissues for energy as often as possible and to store certain components as often as possible. And, like you said, it's causing cells to be more sensitive. Oddly enough, cells become more sensitive to the catecholamines, but at the same time, any kind of stress or activity creates a faster burst and a larger burst. So, you get this burnout, and then the increased metabolic demands cause T3 to downregulate. I mean, those are people that you just need some hard reset, and half the time I'm just about there with you. Let's play Russian roulette with a full revolver. Because I have spent literally months with people like that, just trying everything and trying to reset. And it takes, I've had very unfortunately few successes with that, like where I felt like they were in a place where they could move forward without help. But, it's just almost constant tinkering. It seems like the more I tinker, the easier it is, but the more confusing for them, because 1 week I'm telling them one thing, the next week I'm telling them something different, and there's a little bit of progress, but that doesn't last very long. So then we've got to tinker again. And it's almost like you got to constantly keep hitting the system with a hammer and see which resonance is going to come to the forefront, ride that for as long as you can, and then do it again. So I wish I had a good answer for that, but that's the best I got.
I've a buddy of mine is a functional medicine doc, and he works with a ton of military folks, and he sees this adrenal fatigue. It's interesting. Like the whole process looks really similar to traumatic brain injury, and they're not sure if it's the sleep deprivation, firing 50 cal, guns all day, bad food. They're not sure what it is, and we're not sure if it's coming from the adrenal side, if it's coming from the brain side. But something that he's been doing, in addition to just basically supporting adrenal function, providing substrates for adrenals and whatnot, what he's been doing is a 5-day cortisol reset, where he basically provides bioidentical cortisol in the AM in a pretty high dose, and then midday at a dose that's 50% of the AM dose. And he does that for 5 days, and then a 3-day taper, and then off. And what he's found is that, and this is particularly effective for people who are in a flipped circadian rhythm, where they're lethargic in the morning, super awake at night. You're basically suppressing normal cortisol production in the AM, and then in the PM, because you've suppressed it, there's just none to be produced anyway, and so the person actually starts falling asleep. But he's had some pretty good success with this, which I thought was pretty damn interesting. You're getting almost the same type of shutdown that you would get under an anabolic, a steroid kind of application, but we're using it in the catabolic steroids, and then using it as kind of a system reset to try to restore that circadian rhythm.
That would be, that's almost brilliant.
He's a pretty sharp dude. I'm surprised he hangs out with me, but that's kind of in a way how I envision working with insulin is, that 1 a week you're introducing this to reset a lot of things, but that's interesting doing it with cortisol on a daily basis. And then when they taper, do they go back to, or do they go back to the normal cortisol pattern of release where it ramps up essentially all night, peaks in the morning about an hour after you wake up, and then tapers back off? That's what he's finding with this. That's what he's finding, awesome. And he's tracking all this stuff with salivary tests. So he's doing DHEA, pregnenolone, testosterone, estrogen, the full battery the whole time he does it. And he has some pretty interesting data on it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, my partner in crime somewhere on the other side of the interwebs is a high-level Olympic lifting coach. Where Greg,
you've been pretty quiet, Greg.
Oh, are you even just trying to actually take it all in instead of get in the way?
But Greg, how much tinkering have you done? I know you and I have talked back and forth about like cyclic low carb and stuff like that. How much have you tinkered nutrient partitioning with your athletes? Have you tinkered at all? Have you seen any good result?
Not nearly enough, and largely because I don't have a captive enough group of athletes. Unfortunately, I'm not in a nice training center where I have people who do nothing but train, and I've got people with jobs and all kinds of other, excuses would be a good word. So it's tough to really implement anything that's too jiggy. It's kind of like trying to steer them towards the most fundamental things that are going to keep them on track. And then from there, depending on how much compliance I can actually get, we can tweak. But, it's tough. And, two of my athletes are super heavyweights. So that makes it really easy. You just eat what you want.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to go wrong there.
Greg, can you think of anything else to pump Kiefer on here while we've got him?
Well, I mean, what I would say is, why don't you tell people what they could expect from the carb backloading ebook? And I know it's obvious what the basics are that would be contained in there, but I mean, is it just kind of your general information, or is there some kind of way that they can customize their own eating, based on their own training schedule and whatnot? Kind of explain why people want to go get that thing.
Oh, yeah. It's, of course, it's really science heavy. The first half is a lot of explanation. But as you move towards the back of the book, it actually just starts to break everything down for you. Like, here's the optimal situation. Okay, if you don't have the optimal situation, here's how you can tweak it for your situation. Here's what you should do if you should eat, if you can only train in the morning. Here's what you should do if you have the opportunity to train twice a day, and so on and so forth as you go through the book. So you should be able to build the optimal carb backloading diet for your training scenario. And then also in the back of the book, there's appendix on like how to find your starting level of fat to protein ratio, how to determine your maximum glucose load, which the new version will have an expansion of what that means, because people assumed that the maximum amount of glucose that they could possibly store was how much glucose they should try to eat every night, which caused some amazing
may not be true.
fest. Right. So there will be some more explanation around that, but otherwise, and it goes into some modifications for women. The new book will actually have a whole appendix on how to modify for women, because they burn calories differently and use substrates differently in most situations. So the new one will have all those modifications, but the current one, just has a few tweaks for women, some suggestions on how to add HIIT. The book also, recommends HIIT cardio, the high intensity interval training, tells you how to supplement that into your day for faster results, and then some meal plans at the end of the book. So I tried to make it as comprehensive scientifically, but as easily accessible as possible, and also as easy to implement as possible without, personal guidance.
So then, I mean, is it geared largely towards more of an aesthetics and health sort of approach, or is there information in there that would help guide a more performance-oriented individual, for example, a competitive weightlifter?
Yeah, it's actually geared more towards strength athletes, I would say, than anything else.
Perfect.
Yeah,
because you've had Mark Bell's
not on purpose.
It was not on purpose?
No, it was totally kind of accidental. It's just that's who I was working with when I wrote it, and that was kind of the voice and the direction I took with it, almost inadvertently. I mean, I literally accumulated the whole thing over 2 weeks and wrote it in 2 weeks, trying to satisfy the need of everybody begging for the book. And so that's what I was entrenched in, and that's essentially what the main push of the book really is for strength athletes. I mean, powerlifters do amazing on it. Bodybuilders who are trying to maintain low body fat are doing amazing on it. Female powerlifters, female aesthetic athletes are doing really well on it post or off season for the female figure competitors. What they're finding and what they're amazed about is like they're keeping their strength using Carbonite up to the show, and then after that, they're able to make strength gains without necessarily like big size gains, which they really like in the gym with using carb backloading. So how for whatever reason it's more geared towards people who are looking for aesthetics coupled with exceptional performance.
Perfect. Sounds good to me.
Cool.
Yeah. Have you not read it, Greg?
I have not. I've basically
seriously. You're on you're.
Just hump Robb's knee for little bits and pieces there, and he likes to hold it over my head.
Well, you're better than I am at everything else, so I have to keep some ace in the hole. So.
All right.
I see.
Well, we need to get this team less chubby, so I'd love to take a look at it.
All right, cool.
Not the supers, of course. We like them nice and big and plump.
Right. Yeah, that's helpful in that situation. Well, I heard Mark Bell's name pop up somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to mention that Mark Bell has been a big fan of yours and really advocated both paleo and the carb backloading.
Yeah, he's and Carbonite now. He's completely sold. I don't know if you've seen recent pictures of him. If you haven't, I'll send them. But I think he's down to under 260, and he looks like a bodybuilder. I mean, he's like shredded. If you can imagine Mark Bell shredded, that's what's going on right now. It's like total freak show. And he just loves Carbonite.
Bastard.
Right?
Well, I'll just keep being sarcopenic me, but well, shoot, it's been awesome having you on. I have a feeling that we will get a deluge of questions, and we'll have to schedule you in here another couple of months down the road. I promise it will not be 6 months. I'm not anticipating another baby for a while here. So,
okay, that's good news.
Yeah.
At least for my schedule. I mean, this is obviously all about me, so you need to plan your next child accordingly.
I'll do it. I will consult with you first. Well, folks can track you down at dangerouslyhardcore.com. You've got the BioJacked radio show, which is phenomenal. We'll put a link to both Carbonite and carb backloading in the show notes so that folks can check that out. I've read the whole carb backloading twice, and it is phenomenal. It's really good. And when you were talking, I wanted to just put the observation in. It's obvious that you've worked with a ton of people, because I saw all of the frequently asked questions and all of the ways that people will figure out instead of just following the directions, trying to find some way to negotiate with the universe. It's like, well, could I do this and still get that?
Right.
No. It just ruins the whole thing. How can I explain this to you? And I was just kind of tickled by that, because I've I won't say suffered through that, but I've experienced that quite often running our gym. So that was cool.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you were entertained by that. So you don't have a copy of Carbonite?
I do have a copy of Carbonite. Yeah, and I have read
okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just poor old me, the uncultured, unread weightlifter.
I see. All right. We'll
hook a brother up.
I'll try to send you some cliff notes.
Perfect.
Will that be the most effective?
The more pictures, the better.
Okay.
If you have the
I'm not sure the
scratch and sniff version, then that's the one for me.
Yeah, I was going to say I won't say that the pictures that I will send to tell the story will necessarily have anything to do at all with carb backloading, but I could probably put together a nice picture book for you.
Awesome.
Sweet.
All right.
Kiefer, it was awesome having you on. Thanks again. And Greg, anything that you want to tell folks? Do you have anything popping up on the radar here soon with books or anything?
Bob Takano's book release is on schedule for December 1st, so that thing will be shipping from Amazon soon, and once it's released, it'll be available on our site as well, of course. And so very much looking forward to that. And